As Hamas wages attacks on Israel, there is another war brewing on yet another front, the war on social media. This is a war for the hearts and minds of millions of people around the world in support of Israel. And joining us now is social media influencer Moti Ankari, who is on the front lines of this digital war. Welcome. So we've heard all about the unrest in Israel, but what is happening on the social media front?
Hey guys, thank you so much. And first, let me start saying that I'm so sorry that everything's going on. I hope you guys are staying strong. I know it's a very tough time, but right now there's a bigger war also going on besides the war that's happening in Israel. The war on social media. There's a lot of misinformation being spread by influencers, celebrities, models, et cetera, et cetera. And I think a lot of people are throwing in religion, oppression, and basically throwing all these terms without realizing that right now children are dying, people are getting hurt. There are lives on I can't even speak about it because that's how much it really hurts me. I'm so at unease. And there's a lot of people in my DMs justifying the rockets being sent into Israel, saying it's okay. Well, they asked for it. It is what it is. So the famous words, it is what it is. But then when children are dying, is that their response? Is that what's going to happen? It is what it is. It has to stop. And I think a lot of social media influencers don't realize, but this is inciting it. This is increasing the tension. And as influencers, as celebrities, it's our duty to de-escalate this, to restore peace. We're not going to find a solution. We're not going to find a solution right now during war. If we go into war, lives will die. If we go into war, people will die, lives will be lost. And once the war is over, the issue is still there and people are failing to see that. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
And is it much more difficult now for pro-Israel supporters online? And if so, why do you think that's the case?
I think there's a lot of, this is obviously thanks to the Hadids. They've obviously instilled this kind of woke activism and people thinking like you have to say something because you have to say something. And if you don't say something, you're racist or something. So a lot of people are saying things, agreeing with them because these people, the Hadids have such massive platforms and people just read a one-sided infographic and are like, oh, this is what's happening. So it's quite dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. And a lot of people who are pro-Israel are actually afraid to come forward. They're afraid to take a stance. They're afraid for their voice to be heard because they're afraid to get canceled. I'm sure I've lost friends. I'm sure I've lost followers. But when your identity is on the line, you have to speak up. You have to. There's no question about it.
And what do you say to all those who don't want to speak out in support of Israel for fear, as you mentioned, that it will maybe hurt their brand?
Right now, your identity, your family, your friends, your race, your religion is at stake. Your identity is at stake. If you don't take a stance now, what happens when it's erased? Then you'll take a stance. It's going to be too late. You need to take a stance. You need to start exposing the truth. You need to share both sides, both perspectives. There's no doubt about it. Yes, the Palestinians do feel oppression in Israel, but they don't, it's not black and white. They don't Hamas does not allow them to not feel oppressed. And they're being oppressed by their own people, by their own leaders, and people aren't talking about that. You're talking about the oppression from the Israelis, but not the oppressions from the Palestinians. It's not okay. One is not okay, and both of them are not okay. But
all right, Moti,
one
well,
is being
all the time we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.